Good evening, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. My second half, unfortunately, cannot be with us because, unfortunately, last night we were caught in the act by the police doing acts of daylight knobbery at around 4:32 on Monday afternoon. Tuesday afternoon. Can't count now. He put up a good fight, but unfortunately he was dragged unceremoniously off to the Norfolk Constabulary, where now he has to face charges of daylight knobbery and, of course, walking under the influence of Lucozade. No doubt the judge in the case, if he gets one, will end up sentencing him to a very long stint in the local Tesco's, where he will be forced to drink sparkling water for the next 3 years. But of course, you didn't come here to find out what's happened to Balaclava Guy. No, instead, you want to hear a little bit more about the politics going on right now. And well, I want to say I'm shocked, but because I wouldn't have seen this coming in a mile. Well, from a country mile, I should say. But apparently, Sadiq terrorist sympathiser Khan plans on taking Keir the traitor Starmer and the government to court because of the plans to expand Heathrow Airport, I believe it was, or Gatwick Airport. They apparently wanted another runway for the planes. Now, I honestly don't know how I feel about this, to be brutally honest, because on the one hand, I do feel like having more runways and all that will prevent delays and all that shit, just the generic stuff. But honestly, just because it's Sadiq Khan, just like I would say if it was Keir the traitor Starmer, there's something odious about it. It gives off a certain stink, a certain halitosis, if you will, of the human soul, quite frankly. I don't know what's going to happen as far as that's concerned, but what I do know is that if Sadiq Khan wants it, we should all take it with a grain of salt and err on the side of caution. But you know what I find funny? How Keir the traitor Starmer and, of course, David the Archbishop of Racism Lammy all had to squirm and writhe like maggots when Donald Trump was finally inaugurated. For the left-wing NPCs, they all had a meltdown almost akin to if Homer Simpson fucked up the nuclear power plant. Also reminds me of that time where he ate that radioactive donut and made the Clone Wars in The Simpsons. Anyway, it would have reminded me and everyone else what happens monumentally if the lefties had a complete meltdown. It would be like the nuclear power plant in The Simpsons going off. Now tomorrow, obviously, is going to be the sentencing of Axel the Rudakubanana. You know, the child murdering scumbag. But some of you who may have been paying attention to my post this morning will know that that's not really what I have my focus on right now. It's not the sentencing that I have a problem with. It is what they are using to try and justify what this child murdering subhuman scumbag did, quite frankly. Because turns out they were trying to use the aspect of, oh, he has autistic spectrum disorder, to basically make it, oh, he had mental health issues. No! You cannot use that card against us anymore. And you certainly can't use autism. And it reminds me of that meme. And I took that personally. Because I am taking this fucking personally, quite frankly. When you are talking about people with autism, you are libelously slandering a substantial number of people who not only live in this country, but live on this damn planet. Because I can assure you, yes, I probably have a few screws loose. I better check, see if it's still attached. There we go. Anyway, I may have a few screws loose. But you know what? I know the difference between right and wrong. I know that going out of my way to be a terror and go and stab and murder 3 innocent girls, I know that is fundamentally wrong. Just like I know it's wrong of me to put on a clava and go rob a bank. And if I saw trouble, as far as maybe some ordinary person is getting attacked by some Islamic scumbag, for example, I know the right thing to do would be to go out of my way and help that person and hopefully get them out of trouble. But the mainstream media love playing the mental health card because it's so convenient for them. They always seem to be very quick to use this when a certain ideology is brought into question. It always seems to be when a person is of a particular colour of skin, or they are of the so-called religion of peace, that this mental health card seems to get used. But if it was the other way round, and if it was old Whitey who decided to go out of his way and decided, I don't know, to go and stab a bunch of Muslim girls, we wouldn't hear the fucking end of it as far as, oh, he's a far-right racist thug and football hooligan and Islamophobic and blah, blah, blah. They would be able to talk for bloody England if it was like that. But as far as child murderer Rudakubanana is concerned, oh no, let's just say that he's got mental health problems. Let's say that he was on the fucking autistic spectrum scale. You disgust me. You fucking disgust me. You are worse, in some regards, to that child murdering scum. Because you are enabling. Stroke number one. You are enabling this kind of behaviour, quite frankly. And what was Keir the traitor Starmer doing during all this time with the Southport cover-up? He was trying to deflect all the blame from his nonce party, I mean the Labour Party, or maybe I was right first time, all the way onto the supposed far right. He was trying to blame us and the centre right for basically having a problem with some Islamic scumbag going out of his way to stab and murder 3 innocent kids. Keir the traitor Starmer must have a heart like an onyx stone. The blackest the blackest colour, the most malevolent intent, and the most vitriolic hatred for the ordinary indigenous British people. And you know what? Talking about mental health issues allows us to address this as a whole. Because we need to stop using the fucking mental health card to justify Islamic terrorists and other scumbags from getting away with their crimes, quite frankly. I guarantee you, if I committed some crime, well, I just need to put the balaclava on for that. Anyway, if I committed a crime and I was hauled up in front of a court judge and I tried to play the mental health card, try to say, but I'm autistic, you can't do this, they would laugh me out of court. Just like that. And quite rightly so, because unless it's like exceptionally rare circumstances, mental health has no bearing whatsoever on whether or not somebody goes out of their way to commit a crime, whether or not they know right from wrong, quite frankly. It is truly abhorrent when our media are basically trying to downplay the crime or trying to justify the actions of these people. And it's not just terror offences that this needs to be applied to. This logic of discrediting the mental health card, it needs to apply to robberies, to rapes, to murders, to child trafficking and CA. It needs to apply to it all. Because as I said, mental health has little to no bearing on whether or not someone decides to be a nonce, whether someone decides to be a murderer, whether someone decides to be a terrorist, anyway, or whether they decide they're going to go and traffic children. Mental health, unless, as I said, in exceptional circumstances, has no bearing on whether a person knows right from wrong. That is something that your parents, well, your parents should be doing, but that's something your parents should be doing to make sure that you know the difference between right and wrong. Something that the BBC doesn't know all too well, it seems, since they have a whole track record around the Grand Prix. No, they have a track record of protecting people like Hugh Degenerate Edwards, how they were more pissed off at the public calling out the BBC and Hugh Degenerate Edwards. Oh, and what about Jimmy Tiny Cockosaurus Rex, or Jimmy Savile as most people like to call him, how they defended him? It does beg the question, doesn't it? How morally bankrupt do you think the BBC are? Because the way I see it, if their finances match their moral status, they'd be out of business, quite frankly. The point I try to make as far as mental health is concerned is you don't even need to have more than a double-digit IQ to understand that mental health is not the fundamental crux of what makes people go out and do the most horrendous things. What makes people do these most horrendous things is things like they're fantasizing about this shit. They are glorifying it. They are worshipping it. They are groomed by certain groups of people. They are, how do I put it? They are mixing in with the wrong crowd, basically. That is how a lot of these people end up going off the deep end and not into the deeper end of the swimming pool, quite frankly. Like, if mental health truly had such an impact on whether or not people go out and commit crimes, I can guarantee you I would be in jail right now. And this is where the gloves are coming off. No, really, I've taken them off. Anyway, they need to understand that we aren't stupid. Some of us may be dim bulbs, but I can tell you right now, we haven't gone completely out. In my case, yet. But I digress. You can't keep using certain cards to defend the actions of non-white people. Because let's face it, that's what the mainstream media is doing. They are spending all their time protecting all the ethnic minority groups, the BAMEs. They're protecting mainly black people, they're protecting the Asian community, they're protecting gays, they're protecting bi people, they're protecting Islam. They're basically focusing all their attention on anybody who basically isn't a white woman or man. And by that I mean the two biological genders that you can only be born as. Because, as Donald Trump said in America in his inauguration, there are only two genders, male or female. A trans woman cannot be a woman, and a trans man cannot be a man, quite frankly. And that's the way it should be. But of course, the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks. Say it with me. It doesn't suit the narrative. Well, one thing's for sure. Even if the so-called scriptures of the religion of peace are true, it seems like Axel child-murdering Rudakubanana is going to have to wait before he can claim his 72 virgins. They think they're going to Nirvana. No, they're not. They're going straight to fucking hell, quite frankly. Because I would not want people as morally bankrupt as Islam, or of course David the Archbishop of Racism Lamy, or Keir the traitor Starmer, or Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan. I wouldn't want them in heaven at all. And I don't think the man or woman upstairs would want them up there either. Plus, on top of all that, I don't think he has the hotels to house all the illegal immigrants that are trying to come over and violate our kids. Anyway, my point is, these people are not innocent. These people are not part of our community, the way I look at it, the Islamic side of it, more than anything. Oh, don't get me wrong, there are some lovely people in the black and Asian community, Hindus, Buddhists, etc., etc. However, it mostly seems to be Islam and predominantly black gangs in London that decide they want to go out of their way to go and stab people. Thank you. Right, let's go. Fuck, he went so fast I need to went flying through the back window. Anyway, the bottom line, as far as mental health is concerned, is they need to stop using it as an excuse. They need to stop using that. They need to stop using the race card. They need to stop playing the victim. And the mainstream media fuck me, I nearly had another stroke there. They need to stop enabling these people, quite frankly. It is in the exact same manner how a parent needs to stop enabling a bad child from doing bad habits. Because if these scumbags are going out of their way to commit crime, and then ordinary people are seeing the mainstream media, or people like Keir the Traitor Starmer, or people like David the Archbishop of Racism Lammy, or Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan enabling this shit, what message do you think that sends to them? It sends to them that it's perfectly okay to violate and murder our kids, that it's perfectly fine to possess a deadly weapon, that it's perfectly fine to go out of your way to plan a terror attack in this country. That's what the mainstream media are doing. They are enabling this, and it's got to stop. On a side note, it was kind of funny watching Maya Tuzi react to the super chat I put in his, one of his most recent videos. I think it was denying our UK representative, Peter Mandelson, the one who called Nigel Farage a terrorist figure. So, libel and slander, basically. I loved watching him basically call out my message, and it was just basically the same old, where I say, out with Keir the Traitor Starmer and Sadiq terrorist sympathiser Khan, out with the whole damn nonce party, I mean Labour Party, or maybe I was right first time. Those were my verbatim my words. And just seeing the chuckle on him, it gave me the biggest shit-eating grin on my face, let me tell you. Unfortunately, in other news as well, I have yet to hear from Paul Thorpe or Richard Inman about having a debate as far as whether or not we can end this, I guess, this political war, you could call it. I'm fucking struggling here, man. Not just words, but I'm fucking struggling to believe that this is going to end peacefully, quite frankly. As I've said many times, there are some people you just can't reason with, and I reckon within the next 40-50 days, if Keir the Traitor Starmer does not resign, practically before the start of March, I do think it's going to kick off. And when it does, it ain't going to be pretty. And it's going to ultimately end with a government being overthrown. And as I've said before, and always have, and will do without fail, I do not want this. I do not want a violent revolution, or an uprising, or situations to be brought to the point where Keir the Traitor Starmer has to call military law. But here's the cold, bitter truth. There are some people you can't reason with. There are some people who we have tried to reach out to and end this peacefully. And I will continue to do this peacefully on the 1st of February, as I've said. But it's going to come to a point where anger is going to boil over. Tensions are going to become too high, and the British people will finally have had enough. It will get to that stage, and then it's basically like the top of a volcano, quite frankly. Because all it takes is one single eruption, and the top of that volcano is going to blow off. Just like that. And what do you think's going to happen? Well, what do you think happens when a volcano blows its top? It's not just the lava you've got to worry about, it's also the fallout, the smoke, the smog, whatever you want to call it. And I can guarantee you, you're not going to be able to toast marshmallows over that shit. And what will end up happening is we will see blood on the streets. We will see even worse rioting. We will see a revolution that will literally shake the foundations of Britain. And they can't say I haven't tried to warn Keir the Traitor Starmer about this. They can't say I haven't tried to warn the ordinary people about this. Because what do you think happens when you set a match to a powder keg and the fuse runs out? The only thing you can hope for is that the powder's bloody dry and wet and basically faulty. Otherwise, that thing's going to go boom. And then they will have a problem. And Keir the Traitor Starmer needs to be reminded there are millions of people in Britain who hate his guts, who hate everything about him, that can't stand him. Hell, to quite a lot of people, his figure is so odious, He has such halitosis of the human soul that it makes people want to gag when they look at him, quite frankly. And I can't blame them, because I think he is a completely repugnant, repulsive, disgusting Tin Man. He really is. Instead of the Tin Man where he has no emotion, well, actually, no, he does still have no emotion. He's also the Tin Man that stinks worse than that other family of dead skunks. It surprises me, honestly, that the waft that Keir the Traitor Starmer gives off, I'm surprised he isn't currently in prison for war crimes right now, because he's probably got an odour that's even worse than that of mustard gas, I would probably say. Like, God help you if you get stuck in an interview room with him. You just sit there and he's asking you questions like... Anyway, moving on. The point is, a lot of the British people can't stand him. I can't stand him. I can't sit on him. Well, actually, no, I could sit on him if I had half a chance, but I don't suppose he'd let me, because his legs would be turned to mush. But as far as him, as far as the whole nonce party is concerned, they can't say they haven't been warned. If they don't leave Parliament peacefully, at our request, at our little protest, or within the next 40, 50 fucking days, he can't be surprised if a revolution breaks out in this country. I've said it many times before. In the future, if they look back on this, they're not going to see us as these far-right thugs and hooligans and all that shit that basically wanted to cause trouble. No, they're going to see us as concerned patriots and parents who care for their kids, care for their country, and can't stand it when odious men like Keir the Traitor Starmer are going out of their way to sabotage, undermine, and destroy this country. They will see us as people who have had nothing left to lose. They will see us as people who had to do whatever it took to reclaim the country. They won't see us as criminals. They'll see us as heroes, quite frankly. Because what do you do when you're backed into a corner? Even a cornered rat will show its fangs. And what do you think Keir the Traitor Starmer and his nonce party are doing right now? Backing us into a corner. Screwing over our kids. Screwing over the elderly. Screwing over indigenous people. Saying he will protect the Muslim community. Being a sectarianist bastard. Being a fascist. To some lesser degree, being a racist as well. Because they wouldn't dare do this with any other group of people. They'll only do this if it's old whitey, quite frankly. Keir the Traitor Starmer, Sadiq Khan, Sadiq terrorist sympathising Khan, and of course David the Archbishop of Racism Lammy. They're like three cockroaches that are hard to get rid of. You could put all three of these men together and you would struggle to find a pair of bollocks between them. Hell, you'd be lucky if you could find a single testicle amongst the three of them. And I wouldn't be surprised if they all share the same micro penis, quite frankly. They may have the male genitalia, but you probably need a microscope to be able to see it. Because they sure as hell don't have the balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to really make any true decisions that will benefit Britain. I mean, the fact as well, just to revisit the point, that Axel child murdering Rudakubanana was referred to prevent 3 times. 3 fucking times. And yet, they didn't deem him as a danger. I tell you what, after the second visit, I'd be throwing the fucking key away and locking him in jail, quite frankly. Not necessarily in that order. There is no shot that after the second time that I would have this man, well, sorry, I say man, that's an offence to men, isn't it? This scum walking the streets. There is no way I would allow somebody who is basically a practicing Al-Qaeda member, a member of the Islamic terrorists, to walk around the streets. I personally wouldn't take very long if I heard that the man was obsessed with death and was fantasizing about mass murders, I personally don't think I'd be letting him walk within 5 inches of anyone. In fact, I wouldn't even give him the time of fucking day. I wouldn't even give him a can of fresh air. It would be, you're going to stay in this room, I'm going to lock this room, and I'm calling the police, and I'm going to have your ass locked up. Because I wouldn't want that person running around. I wouldn't want to have vermin like Axel Rudakubanana running around when he can endanger kids. And any excuse they try to say, oh, it's mental health issues, bollocks. Total bollocks. And you know what? I think there needs to be a new rule, quite frankly. I think there needs to be a new rule as far as enabling these pricks is concerned. And I say, if you want to go out of your way to use the mental health card or race card to enable terrorism, then you are as well, stroke number 2, then you are as well complicit. And if you want to act with the same level of complicity towards these terrorists, then you yourself need to be punished in the same way that the terrorists or the murderers would be punished themselves.